What I've heard you say before that Putin's goal is to rebuild the Soviet Union. That's just the synopsis of what he wants to do?
Well, he's said it numerous times himself. He said that, I mean, his most direct quote was the collapse of the Soviet Union was the greatest crisis of the 20th century, right? And so I guess my point is that he's spent the past 30 plus years trying to figure out how to rebuild it in some fashion. I don't mean the entire Soviet Union, but he certainly wants to get back to something more than what he's got, right? He's very keen on sort of the glory of the motherland, right? And okay, everybody, you could argue everybody's nationalistic, but he's ambitious in a land grab sort of way. So when he says that, and when he talks about the threat of NATO on his border, right? He's not bullshitting, right? He means that, right? And so the idea that he's going to take Ukraine, and if we stop aid, again, Washington's going to do what they do, but if they don't provide resources to Ukraine going forward, if we say, that's enough, let's focus on ourselves, it's not important. And people rationalize that by thinking that it's just Ukraine. Why do we care? It's one country. If they imagine that that's where he's going to stop, he's going to end up with Kyiv and then go, yeah, okay, I'm good. It's all fine now. I don't care. I'm gonna now focus on improving myself and the homeland. That's not his track record. I'm not sure where people get that belief or optimism from. I think it's a rationalization because they don't want to spend any more money on Ukraine because they don't see the value in trying to prevent Putin from invading and taking over
just seems
a separate country.
Yeah. How much truth is there in the Russia's got declining birth rates. This is close to the highest that their population is ever going to be. Therefore, their armed forces this is kind of a last chance attempt to be able to have the manpower to go into Ukraine. Is there any truth in that? It's a story I've seen pushed around online.
Yeah. Look, they've got a 3-to-1 manpower advantage over Ukraine. And more importantly, they've got an ability to suffer and put up with pain that I don't think the West really understands. And go back and look at their history in World War II and their losses that they were willing to sustain. Is
the culture still the same as then, though?
I think it's pretty well embedded in the culture. Yeah. I mean, you can argue that it's a more modern society and they've got access to information. But at the end of the day, I think Putin and his cohorts, I think they read the people pretty well. And you would imagine that, there must be populations, just rising up in the streets and that's not happening. Right. Look, in part, he was smart in how he was conscripting a lot of people. He took them from, sort of the Netherlands, the outer regions. He wasn't recruiting a lot of soldiers off the streets of St. Petersburg or Moscow or wherever. And because he doesn't necessarily want to bring the war right to Moscow and make them feel the pain, right? I mean, they went through that in Afghanistan to some degree when the Soviets occupied Afghanistan, and eventually, sort of the popular unrest at home, mothers of dead soldiers, they all started to, and so he could start to feel that, right? I think they do have the appetite to wear a lot of pain, and so I think that's what Putin counts on. Whether they'll have the manpower, I think, Putin, they miscalculated so much. Right, the Russian military and intelligence apparatus made so many mistakes going into this invasion. But I think one calculation that he's kind of clung to is that the West will get tired of it, and that's kind of what's happening.
You can count on the shortness of the attention span.
Yeah, and I think he imagined. I mean, look, he imagined NATO was gonna break, right, or splinter, or there wouldn't certainly be the cohesiveness that there is, and he certainly didn't anticipate it growing like NATO has. But so there's a lot of mistakes there, but I think he has correctly pinned some hope on the fact that we'd get tired of it. right? And that there would sort of be this popular unrest. And make no mistake, the Russian disinformation apparatus is busy feeding that, right? So again, goes back to what we're talking about with information that you read and trying to figure out what these opinions are on social media. Why wouldn't they, right? It's impossible to think that the Russian regime, the intel apparatus, wouldn't look at the situation and go, yeah, we need to do what we can to influence the narrative in the States and the West, right? They've been doing this forever. They did it in World War II to try to keep us out of World War II, right? Before the Nazis or the Germans invaded Russia, when they were allied, they spent a lot of time focused on trying to influence public opinion inside the U.S. to keep America out of the war. So it's not something new, right? They're just using different technology.